Welcome to the Tewanee Joseph Show. I'm here with Gina Jacksona, proud member of the Sechelt Nation, as well as the executive producer for the Bears Lair, but also a leader in entrepreneurialism, but also an advocate for First Nations people right across this country and around the world. Gina, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Tewanee. It's a pleasure and honor to be on your show.
Well, Gina, we go back, many years. We've done work together, and it's just incredible to see where your journey has gone. And I know that we're out oftentimes in sometimes the similar places, but also you've been out across this country, but you've been such a huge advocate for entrepreneurialism. It's been so important for our people, but also the words that you do and working with youth and also getting out and running camps. But tell me what you've been up to in terms of the world of entrepreneurialism.
Well, and yes, we do go back a long way. As you know, I worked as the small business officer and administrator for the Squamish Nation Trust for 13 years. And I have to put my hands up to you and the original trustees that hired me, Pate Smuck and Joanna Haney and Harold Calla, and of course yourself, Tewanee Joseph, that gave me the opportunity as a cousin of the Squamish Nation, because I'm from Sechelt and we share a lot of family. To have the opportunity to work with the Squamish Nation and represent the entrepreneurs in their journey. The great Chief Leanne Joe, hereditary chief from the Squamish Nation, gave me an opportunity to be the small business officer in a 6-month maternity leave, and she never ever came back. So for 13 years, I was able to represent the entrepreneurs and help with the achievements of their brainstorming of starting businesses or the expansion of their existing businesses, and just so thrilled. And that led me to a journey of my love for entrepreneurism. And with that, after leaving the Squamish Nation, participated in working with industry. But I always thought to myself, with working with Indigenous entrepreneurs, specifically Squamish, that every single entrepreneur that I've met, that I had the pleasure of meeting, and that is one of 500 entrepreneurs, every single one of them from the Squamish Nation, they've done something really unique. And it's not just Squamish, it's all across Canada now that I'm seeing, is that every single entrepreneur that I've met wants to create a solution for a problem within their community, whether it's on that community level, regional, national, or global level, to really make an impact and either improve resources, whether it's on products or improve any kind of systems or services. And I always thought to myself, why isn't there a TV show that's like the Bears Lair the Shark Tank or the Dragon's Den, but for Indigenous people? Why is it that we have to always take ownership or creativity away? And why is it this capitalist type programming that we have? And why don't we listen to the voices of our own people? So for 10 years, I threw that out there to anybody that would listen, and nobody created it. So I thought that I would create a program of my own. We named it the Bears Lair, and in 2022, September 11th, 2022, was the first episode of the Bears Lair. And now that was season 1 in 2022. We just finished season 2. Somebody just won $100,000. And so doing a TV show, subsidiary to that, we teach kids camps all over Canada about entrepreneurism. We've been to 42 different communities and taught 1,400 kids. And I have a podcast of my own called Beyond the Lair, where we interview great leaders, industry leaders, as well as emceeing and keynote speaking and just trying to spread the good word of entrepreneurism everywhere I go.
Well, that's a big part of it. It's getting out there, but it's also Indigenous people seeing themselves on television. For so long, what we would see was not really reflective of who we are, but also working in the community with over 500 entrepreneurs. What were some of the most important things when people want to start a business? Because, there's a lot of young entrepreneurs, but there's also those that have been a part of, working life for many years. What were some of the most important things that you can kind of reflect upon, in terms of the questions that, First Nations or Indigenous peoples had when they were starting their own business?
I think when you start your own business, the mistake that some people make is that they're doing it for profit only. You really have to. I always talk about profit with purpose, and that is to do something, number one, that you love, because otherwise you're just creating yourself a job that you cannot quit. It's not even quitting; it's failing if that business, which you learn from, by the way, but creating something that you really love and you're passionate about, but also creating a business that you're educated in. So, and I always give this advice to youth because I teach so many youth, but it's only from adults that I get this information, and I see this tried and true. Is if you're going to open a coffee shop, go work in a coffee shop.
Right.
Go work at a Starbucks or a JJ Bean or something like that for 6 months or a year or 3 months or whatever you need to do to absorb the kind of information that goes beyond just the service sector of serving a customer, because there's so much more that goes with it in respect of ordering, the financial literacy component, risk with owning your company, staff management. And then after that time of working in a paid education, as I like to call it, then you can decide whether or not that you really want to go into this type of business, or maybe you can take the systems and take those systems and improve on it, and then take that knowledge and base it into your next business. It's also going to help you with receiving any kind of grant funding or applying for any kind of grant funding. Because even though a lot of, I mean, I'm not a baby boomer. What am I? A Generation X? I'm in my 50s, and a lot of us don't go to school for business or MBAs or what have you. So you just have the skill set and passion of life. I know how to bead. I know how to carve. I know how to weave. I know how to have service. I know how to do catering, etc. Whatever your love is that you're doing, there's so much opportunity right now, but you really have to have a passion for what you're doing, because it's a job that keeps on going, and your hardest boss is yourself, but also have the experience to go into a field that you're interested in.
Absolutely. And I think those are lessons for anybody starting a business, which I think is incredible for people to hear. But also at the same time, when we think about starting a business and once it starts to go, in terms of accessing grants and those types of things, your target audiences, like what were some of the things that you've kind of learned from those businesses that you've helped along the way that have come back and said, I'm successful because of these things, when they've been in business for 5 years, 10 years, because, you've been going back, for a number of years, helping support these small business, whether they're artisans or whether they're coffee shops or other types of businesses. What were some of the lessons that they shared with you that helped them also achieve success after putting in the hard work?
I think the biggest successes, the biggest successful companies that I know are the ones that are looking for help and resources that they don't have strengths with, right? So, for example, when I worked for the Squamish Nation, there's a lot of businesses that are really great at creating products, but not necessarily their strong suit is administration. So, accounting, tax laws, social media, marketing, pricing their product or their service where it's competitive, that kind of stuff. And I think there's a lot of resources out there, and you don't have to do it all on your own. And that's the one thing that I think as an entrepreneur, you think you have to do it all on your own. And a lot of the times, like when I did the TV show, all your poker chips are in, and you think that there's absolutely no option to fail, and there isn't, when you put it out there in different scopes. But there are so many resources out there. There's Talahout, which is Capital Corporation. Umbrella is NACA, National Association Capital Corporation. They are such great resources, and they have mentors that can help you with your business plans. There are different organizations like RBC and Van City and Scotiabank and lots of different organizations that can assist with access to capital that it never used to exist with us before as Indigenous people, especially living on reserve. One of the biggest pain points is access to capital and credit. Credit, credit, credit. I can't even say this enough. To be successful in your business, you have to address your credit. And this is something that I find is a pain point, and maybe it's just triggers from where we are in school, like with math or with just being on reserve in the first place and being told no for our generations prior to us and before us. There's so many opportunities for us to take advantage of the who's, not the hows. There's a really, really good book by the name of, it's called Who Not How, and it's by Dan Sullivan. And I highly, highly suggest people reading this book, because it really does say it all. Who, not how. I know how to do this. I don't know. I need a who to do my accounting, and I know a who to do my social media, my marketing, and I need a who to do sales while I create what I'm creating. And it's really important to start delegating with your business, and that to know that you're not alone, that there are people like myself, which you can reach, whoever's listening can reach out to me on LinkedIn anytime. I'm happy to help or steer you in the right direction. But there's a ton of opportunity right now. But I think credit is really important, is to address your credit. If you have bad credit, let's repair it. If you don't have any credit, let's begin it, and how to maintain it in an effective way, because that is the first thing that grants will look at. That is the first thing that a lender will look at. And there's a way to do it. So I think we just bury our heads sometimes with it and think that it's not going to happen. And you just have to be a champion in your own life.
Absolutely. And I think once again, I mean, anybody starting a business, whether it's First Nations, Indigenous people or not, those are all lessons that you can take forward and actually apply to wherever it is and whatever business you start, starting with the passion, putting in the hard work, also not being afraid to ask for help is so important. And I really love the suggestion on the books as well. Now, taking all those experiences and everything, let's talk a little bit about the Bears Lair now. So I did watch all of the full seasons, and I did watch it with my two sons. So we would put it on TV and I'd record all the sessions and everything like that, or all the shows and everything. So to me, it was incredible to see how this concept that you had come up with now is being actually there on TV. And I have to also admit, I was taking a flight somewhere, so I had access to, on the flight to the Bears Lair as well. So how did that concept actually come to fruition? Now, you'd been talking about it for a number of years, but how did it actually help and come together?
It's interesting because I was teaching a course at the Squamish Nation about entrepreneurism, and it was the Aboriginal Best program with Kristen Kozebek. And we played just a video. Here's an elevator pitch. I don't think, we're very visual people. And I think it's really important when you're teaching something to have a lot of visual explanation. So we played a session of the Bears Lair. The Dragon's Den. And in reality TV, it's the most successful reality TV. If you look at all different entrepreneur shows or Cake Boss or whatever it is, there's someone that shines like a diamond. There's somebody that has a profound story where they've overcome adversity that everybody is rooting for, and that's an underdog. And then you have somebody that has no business being there. And so Mr. Wonderful is Mr. Wonderful, and that's great. And it's a trailblazing show. And I know that he's a very nice and kind person. But for shock value, you have that kind of comments about, what are you doing here? And these don't make any sense. And it's really to inspire entrepreneurs to get their, together. But what I found was it sort of had the adverse effect of what I was looking for in respect of this is an elevator pitch. I saw people question whether or not they should go into entrepreneurism because as human nature, we divert to the negative. We do. This is what's wrong with this before we say what's right with a lot of things. And so I just thought to myself, why isn't there a TV show like the Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, but for Indigenous entrepreneurs? Why do we have to take ownership and creativity? Why is it about the bravado of the judges instead of the showcasing the entrepreneurs? How can we get through the barriers and stereotypes of Indigenous people and say that, we're only siloed in this micro business when we're doing innovation and technology and food sovereignty systems, and we're just incredible people all over Canada? And how do we show Canada this? And so I've been talking about it for a decade. And my husband, Dean Montgomery, just said one day, he said, you know what, why don't you just pitch this to APTN and see what happens? And during COVID, we did it. During a pandemic, we filmed it. And when I say there's no option to fail and all the chips are on the table, I think if you announce something loud and proud and all over, that it will all come together. You have to say it out loud with what you're doing. If you want it to be a reality, you have to write it, you have to say it, you have to think it, you have to do it.
Absolutely. And I think, again, more lessons for anybody to draw from and take forward and move forward. Now, after the break, let's come back and actually, I'm interested to hear about some of the contestants from season 1 and also some of the experiences that you may not have thought were going to happen actually happened. So right after the break, we'll come back to the Bears Lair in more detail in terms of some of the experiences that Gena's had. But right now, Let's listen to some more Indigenous music right on Journey FM. Welcome back to the Tewanee Joseph Show, here with Gina Jacksona, creator, executive producer, and the whole idea around Bears Lair. Let's come back to that. And let's talk about now some of the things that, in season 1, season 2, were some of the contestants, as I said earlier before the break, that, it's been something that I sat around with my kids watching the Bears Lair, but just the pride that I had in seeing these contestants and seeing you on stage with private sector, other First Nations people, all coming together and really holding up and lifting up these entrepreneurs. What are some of the stories that you can share with us from the Bears Lair and some of those experiences from season 1 or 2?
It's interesting. When you have a TV show, when you pitch a TV show, we did it to AP10 and they said, this sounds like a good idea, but you have to raise all the money for this. And we're not applicable for any kind of grants. And I'm the grant queen and I wasn't applicable for any because this is general entertainment. So first and foremost, the big surprise was having to raise all the money during a pandemic. And we did that, which I'm really proud of. But people like BDC, Scotiabank, Van City, local companies like SecureGuard, Canada Post, they all signed up. And the more that people saw who was sponsoring this programming, the more it stood up like a domino effect. So I was really pleased with that. And season 1, everyone had to make their way out. We had to get swabbed. Remember those days when you would walk in somewhere and see if you had COVID or not, and there was no plan B. So it was really great to have all of the contestants come on their own accord. We had some great contestants for season 1. The winner was Agritech North, spoiler for anybody for season 1. But they had sustainable food systems that were vertical, and they bring tomatoes. They grow tomatoes and peppers and strawberries opposed to just leafy greens. And they have them in a, hold on for 2 seconds. Ground. So they grow leafy greens. So not just leafy greens, but sustainable vitamin C enriched fruits and vegetables, so that they can partner with a drone company that can take food 800 pounds on a drone to fly in, fly out communities, so that these communities aren't paying $10 for a head of lettuce in northern stores. So they're paying the same that we would pay at Save On Foods or Safeway here, because Doritos are $2. So the health is really compromised out in those areas. So again, providing a solution for a problem so you can make a difference. And those were the winners. We had Mallory Yangwei that has a company called Indigibox, where she takes entrepreneurs from all over Canada and she puts these boxes together for corporate gifting, and just amazing, amazing people. And for season 2, we have Santana Alexis, which is a member of the Sechelt or Squamish Nation, and she does nails, and she's so fantastic and lovely. We have Cease Weiss and her daughter that with Hummingbird Tea Company that was on the TV show. None of them that I didn't, there's no nepotism because this is in front of a board of people that before. So they were 2 of the contestants that were on the show. I think what surprised me most about doing a TV show was in our original pitch to APTN, we had people who are your judges. So Tabitha Bull from the Canadian Council for Indigenous Business now, who's the busiest person on the planet. She's the CEO and president. She offered to do this, as well as Chief Rob Louie from the West Bank Nation, as well as Dave Tuckerow, for free for the first season. And just giving back to the human spirit of what we want to really want to promote. And I just think everyone coming together. My brother, Shane Jackson from Spirit Works, who has a beautiful studio right next to the Squamish Nation Trade Center, donated his space for 3 weeks and stopped production so that we could make his studio into a movie studio. Just so many people came together, designers. Hey Nicholas, Pam Baker from the Squamish Nation donated, letting us use their clothes. A Laylam from the island, Sophia and Annalie Good, gave some of their clothing so that we could have professional wardrobe. Everybody came together as a village. And I just can't say enough about how grateful and how much gratitude I have for everyone that supported this programming to make it successful.
And that's so true. And some of the things we talked about before the break was, making sure if you have a vision and you have a passion and you have a love for something that you do, but also calling upon others to help support. And those are names and great people that are always so giving, when it comes to, support for positive initiatives, but also positive things that can happen, have a long lasting impact on people. And I think that's great. And I just have to kudos to you and hold my hands up to you, because it's a lot of work to put together what you put together for the Bears Lair. And it's all of those people, like you said, like a village coming together to make something like that happen. And I think that it's so good for peoples in our communities right across this country and around the world as well. Indigenous peoples around the world that watch this or see this, can inspire them to do similar things. And youth are so important. We always think 7 generations ahead. Some of the work that you're doing, tell me a little bit about some of the youth entrepreneurs and some of the camps that you've been doing also, that's kind of based from some of the ideas and things that you've experienced over the years.
For sure. And I have to thank as well, DJ Osho was one of the youth that I helped with the Squamish Nation. She also was a coach on the TV show, same with Tamara Goddard. And also DJ Osho is a coach for my kids' camps as well. So subsidiary to the TV show, we facilitate kids' camps all over Canada, where we teach kids 11 to 18 years old about entrepreneurism in a 3-day interactive camp and with a 4th night of graduation ceremony. Now, we did something like this in 2015 with the Squamish Nation, nothing to do with the Bears Lair, where we created a program where kids could learn about business, but also life skills and public speaking. Chiefy and Campbell's daughter actually was on, I think she was about 14, and now she's gone off to university for business. And lots of different nation members. So there were 25 kids in our first cohort. And I think we had about a couple hundred people show up for the graduation ceremony just to acknowledge the achievements of the kids. So creating that program, just emulating that program, and then bringing it to the Bears Lair, knowing that if I tweaked it and made it more business and then more life skills, that it would be something that could change and shift the paradigm of Indigenous business for youth today, and teach them and instill the skills that we know as adults, but these kids are missing out on because of electronics, because of social connection. So what we did was we created a camp that's 3 days. We teach the kids team building. We get them to choose a business, what they're going to sell, where they're going to sell it, core values, think of a name, think of a logo. We teach them target market. We teach them budgeting. We give them a $10,000 hypothetical marketing budget to find their target market. We teach them startup costs, operational costs, how many goods or units you have to sell to make a profit, what's a profit. We teach them, they determine roles within the business, CEO, CFO, director of marketing, director of social impact. We teach them how to shake hands, eye contact, and then we get them to film a Bears Lair video. And then we have a graduation ceremony where we put that on the big screen, and we invite membership, leadership, sponsors, community members, siblings to celebrate the achievements of these kids. But most importantly, what it teaches these kids is eye contact, social confidence, public speaking, team building, connectiveness, financial literacy, media training, presentation skills, and putting your phone down for 3 days and just really being present with each other. And I think these are skill sets that maybe are lacking in some communities, but what we want to do is we want to teach these kids not only about a business acumen, because they're 11, they may or may not use this in their life, but what they will use are the life skills that's going to take them to the next level in respect of being a better student, wanting to attend post-secondary school, maybe joining leadership with chief and council, being a better employee when they decide to apply for a job, or become an entrepreneur within their own community, even as a youth and a young entrepreneur.
And that's so important. And I think that when we talk about the youths of today and tomorrow, these skills that they're gaining, the other thing that, happens during part of what you've explained is that sense of pride, in who they are, and where they come from. And when you have that foundation based on all of those skills that you work on with them, it's no stopping them on what they can do either in their community or working outside their community, bringing those teachings home as well. So it's so important to have. So where have you run these camps, here in BC or across the country?
Across the country. We've been from the Yukon to Manitoba, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC, of course. We've done one locally for the Squamish Nation, Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. We're doing one out in Chiam on October 18th to the 21st. And we've, as I mentioned, we've been to 42 different communities. We've taught over 1,400 kids. And it really is, it's such a social impact and relationship build for anybody that wants to participate in sponsoring these camps, or any communities that are interested in these camps, to teach the kids about entrepreneurism. It's education, it's culture, it is social studies, it's everything that could possibly be packed into a boot camp, and everyone comes out winning.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important. It's almost like, just listening to you, not just in the communities, but also, I have two young men that have moved through the high school system most recently. But, when I hear them talk to their friends about things, like being able to run that through the education system, I think would be incredible. So I hope that it even expands even further, because whether you're an Indigenous person or a non-Indigenous person, we all have to work together. And I think these young people that are growing up, to gain these types of skills and building pride and understanding passion and moving forward in entrepreneurship is so critical to where we go in this country. And I know that we've talked a lot about kind of from a First Nation or Indigenous perspective, but procurement is really a big thing that's happening across this country, and particularly over the last 10, 15 years or so. So for non-Indigenous companies that want to do business with First Nations themselves, or being able to kind of look at procurement opportunities where First Nations can partner with non-Indigenous companies together. What are some of the things that you've learned over the years in terms of procurement, how important that is in terms of where we go in this country?
I love this subject because procurement is my one of my favorite things to do, and to work on. And I think with industry, it's because of UNDRIP, because BC is not treaty, and you have to have authentic consultation. It's really important to know the most effective way to reach a nation. And sitting as you did, with chief and council for years in the trust as well, inauthentic and authentic consultation. And my biggest, when I speak about this, I think about education. Number one, going into the Squamish Nation, for example, and as a proponent wanting to be a partner with the Squamish Nation, we have something called Google, right? So go in, find out what the territory is. I don't know how many times people have come in and thought that the Squamish Nation was up in Squamish. That is all. Find out the resources, the resources and strengths. Is it real estate? Is it natural resources? What is it that exactly the nation is known for? And then also, don't just don't I think relationship building is really important, because when we were first vetting proponents for partnerships, we had people that came in and wanted to develop a partnership with us because a project was coming up next month, and that they needed a check on the box to say that they had authentic consultation or discussion. I think engage early, engage often, educate yourself, know about the nation, the strengths of the nations, know the governance, because is it an election coming up? Are you talking to the right people? There is a certain timing for working with it, but developing relationships that don't necessarily require money. And a lot of industry leaders are just thinking, you know what, it's number one, I have to give up a revenue share if you want to have a partnership, right? So I have to give up a revenue share, and then I have to employment and training. That was so 10 years ago. Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity, but I think everybody who's working is working, and who's not is not. 50% of Canada, of all Indigenous communities, are under the age of 25. Like, let's focus on the youth a lot, and the people that are working, and the people that are aging out are aging out. But take a look and get some education about the demographics. Entrepreneurism is really, really important. And this is, when I talk about things don't cost money, go and volunteer. Go, and the elders get delivered hampers every single year. Go volunteer. Go volunteer at a career fair. the Squamish Nation Trade Center has a fundraiser every single year. Go participate, buy a ticket. So talk to economic development corporations, talk to leadership, and find out how you can come and volunteer and be a regular face. And that doesn't cost any money. It costs time, but that time will lead to relationships and building better relationships and a better partner. Because it's interesting. Chief Gibby Jacobs said something when we were vetting a proponent back in the day when he was working for the Business and Revenue Office. And he said, before somebody said, okay, Chief Gibby, I'm going to tell you what I do for a living. Here, I'm going to set my presentation up. And Chief Gibby said, before you tell me what you do, tell me why you do it.
Right.
And what that did, it made that person emotional. Because sometimes when you get busy in your business and making your numbers and making your quotas and doing everything, you forget to see the forest through the trees. And you can't, and you bring it back. I want to do this because I want to make a better life for the 7 generations around me. I want to educate and elevate and inspire youth all over Canada, because I see if they have those tools and they have those tools and the power to make a difference for 7 generations to come. Like, what is your why? And I think you need to know that before you start anything, business or being in industry.
And that's so important. Those teachings that are being passed on as well are so important where we go. Now, Gina, we've covered many, many topics. You're super busy going across this country. Where can people find you, in terms of, your URLs, or you also have a podcast? And I'd love to invite you to come back on and talk more entrepreneur and also procurement in the future if you want to. I think it would be incredible to continue this journey together with you. But where can people find you?
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Tewanee. I would love to come back anytime. People can find me on my LinkedIn page, Gina Jackson, on LinkedIn, Geena Jackson. You can find me on bearslairtv.com is our website. You can find me on info@bearslairtv.com. I'm also on Facebook, of course, as all of my people are. That's our age demographic. My sons roll their eyes at it because they're young. But I'm easy to find, and absolutely honored if anybody wants to reach out to me. If I can't help you, I'm very well connected, and I can put you in the right direction.
Gina Jackson, the Sechelt Nation has been so a part of my community for so long and our long connections. So proud member of the Sechelt Nation, but also the executive producer, creator, and star of Bears Lair, I have to say, but also a champion and leader for entrepreneurism, which is so important in this country and in all of our communities as well. Thank you for being here. Hochika.
Oh, I see him. Thank you.
And now back for some more incredible Indigenous music.